morning, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar by TJC on unlocking SAP S4HANA's AI potential, data quality as your hidden advantage. Before we start, a few administrative items. All participants are on mute during the full duration of the webinar. If there are sound issues or you cannot view the slides or the presenter, please alert us through the questions panel. Please also post any questions on the topic through the questions function in your administration panel on the right side of your screen. Our presentation today will take about 25 to 30 minutes with 10 minutes reserved for Q&A at the end. Now, in this executive level session, we'll discuss how businesses can unlock the potential of AI within their SAP landscapes. While SAP has made it easier than ever to start AI projects, sustainable value depends on one often overlooked asset, and that is historic data. This conversation explores why high-quality data is essential for reliable predictions, how organizations can turn dormant data into a competitive advantage, and what steps leaders should take to prepare for AI-driven transformation. My name is Jochen Hager. I'm a principal with TJC Americas and I focus on customer service and business development. I will be your host throughout the session, and I will present a quick overview on our legacy data solution, TJC Elsa, after the interview. We have with us today Andreas Welsch. Andreas is an internationally recognized AI leader, advisor, and speaker, known for helping the world's leading enterprises turn technology hype into business outcomes. He is the founder and Chief AI Strategist at Intelligence Briefing, the best-selling author of the AI Leadership Handbook, and the creator of several popular LinkedIn learning courses on AI agents for business leaders. And with that, Andreas, I'll turn the presentation over to you, and I'm making you presenter.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Good morning, good afternoon. Welcome, everyone. I'm just going to share this, and then we'll get started. So, hi, I'm Andreas. I used to spend 25 years at SAP in different roles, leadership roles, the last 10 years in and around the topic of AI, helping large Fortune 500s in North America and Europe figure out what do we do with machine learning? What is that to begin with? How can we implement this? I brought AI into SAP S4HANA, building and leading a center of excellence in product management for a number of years before I built and led SAP's global product marketing organization for AI. And now for the last year, I've been independent, helping business leaders figure out what do we do with AI? What should our strategy be? How can we put things on a roadmap? What are the right things to prioritize? And most of all, how can we bring our people on board? Like Johan said, if you'd love to learn more about this, I highly encourage you to take a look at the AI Leadership Handbook, where I outline the 9 dimensions of successful AI leadership and bringing AI to business. So, obviously there's lots to talk about. SAP has been on this amazing journey over the last couple of years, bringing AI to the entire product suite, including S4HANA. And from my point of view, right, having been there a couple of years ago, when they was just starting, it's exciting to see where we are. But a lot of times when we look at AI, we look at adoption, we see things like this already today, both in the SAP, but also outside of the SAP ecosystem. Like, people are using AI more and more. It's never been easier to access things like Copilot, ChatGPT, now with Joule from SAP coming probably to your landscape as well. Right? There's an abundance of tools. And the fact is that your users, your business users, they're not waiting. They're not waiting for you to say, yes, we'll enable these tools and here's lots of training and we'll take you by the hand. No. The fact is actually that the majority of professionals don't even tell their manager or their peers that they're using AI, because they're afraid everybody else might think, hey, I'm lazy, I'm incompetent because I need the help of AI. When it's actually quite the opposite, right? It makes us more productive. It can make us more efficient. Now, from a top-down leadership point of view, You've seen this likely with machine learning. You've seen this with generative AI. You're most likely now starting to see that with agentic AI as well. There's a big push from the board, from the C-suite, all the way down to say, we need to do AI. Why? Well, somebody said we need to do AI. So a lot of times what we see as a result is that actually AI projects and initiatives are not successful. And they're not successful because we're not paying enough attention to the people in the organization. We're not understanding how do they actually work, how does the change influence them, and obviously data, right? Data too. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here talking about this, because businesses have so much data available, but it's not always usable. It's not always in the right format, not always available when you need it, and things like that. So that's why at least 85% of AI initiatives fail. And by the way, that has been consistent since 2018, since Gartner initially came out with that. Every couple of years, they refresh it, still around the 85% mark. So we need to do something different, right? Now, what you're also seeing in this market, especially if you subscribe to the tech marketing buzz, is this big focus on AI agents. All of a sudden, we can delegate a goal to software, and we can say, hey, I want you to research information in a certain market about my competitors, or financial performance of my customers. Are they good customers to do business with? Right? Am I likely to get paid afterwards, or are they in distress, or do they have some challenges? So we're delegating a goal now to software, instead of saying, if this happens, then do that. So if you picture this on this 2x2, right? Not only are we increasing the level of autonomy where these systems can analyze data, process it, plan, reason, take action, but we're simultaneously also increasing the level of automation that they can do. Right? From rules, if this happens, then do that in the bottom left corner, all the way to the top right, AI agents, high level of autonomy, high level of automation. So,
Andreas, if I could stop you there for a moment, what's a good way to start if I haven't done anything with AI?
yeah.
Do you recommend that I go with just a simple ChatGPT-like companion where I ask simple questions, or do you think it's important to embed this deeper, like you said, in maybe helping me analyze which client is defaulting on their obligations towards our company and such?
I think that really depends on where you are in the organization, and also what your level of maturity or familiarity with these tools is. If you already use ChatGPT, maybe getting a subscription for the plus version, $20 per user per month. You can use things like deep research, where AI, in that case ChatGPT, can go off and can do the research for you and come back with results. We're looking at tools like Perplexity, which is excellent in search and bringing back results and the actual sources that you can cite. So those are some good ways to test the water and get a little more familiar with the concepts. Certainly, if you're looking to bring this to your business and connect it to your business data, I would highly recommend going for enterprise-grade solutions, or if you're in the SAP ecosystem, looking what SAP and its partners are offering there. But to test the waters, right, the simple subscriptions can already work wonders, right, to get the idea. So the big shift that we're seeing with this is that we're moving from defining each and every step in the process to now actually software being able to implement it, right? I want you to research this information. I want you to give me recommendations. Maybe I have some open items in finance. Ask for insights. Which customers are usually paying me late? Are there any signals that you see? How should I approach them? So things are becoming more predictive and prescriptive in that sense at the same time. Now, maybe you've seen this too over the last couple of months. I certainly noticed it as well. And I'm curious, Jochen, if maybe you've perceived that too. You get some communication, some document, some report, maybe some email from a colleague or a business partner, maybe a team member, and say, hey, I've taken the first stab at this. I've created the first draft. Can you take a look if that's good, and if we can send this off? So you start reading it. And maybe, it starts with, in this transformative age of artificial intelligence, or you see all of these long M dashes in it. And as you start reading it, you're like, I don't know, it's not bad, but it's also not good. It's not specific. It's missing details. It reads pretty generic and bland. So there's a term for that that's been emerging lately, and it's called AI work slop. Right? When people use AI, again, they use it without telling you, but they use it to create information that they maybe haven't spent as much time refining as they probably should have. So the question becomes now with AI: Are we okay if things are mediocre but just faster? Right? I don't know. How do you feel about this, Johan? Have you received AI work slop recently? Anything that stood out?
I think I probably have. I'm not sure I'm good at recognizing it yet. I do have used it in exactly that way, but so far I have disclosed it to my coworkers all the time, saying, "Hey, I created this. This is the prompt I used. This is the result I got, and let's talk about it. What is missing, or how can we refine it?" It does help a lot, but it also creates a lot of output that's just text and has no content.
That's right. I love that. It's text without content. Exactly. That's a perfect way to describe it. Now, if you imagine that people are doing this now, we're using AI, we're getting some text, some output, we're sending this off, and we're happy that we've solved the problem in minutes instead of hours. So you can easily transfer that same idea and that same challenge to your AI systems now, or to your agents that access data, that access your business data, and they need to access it, but they just generate some gibberish. Yeah, it sounds like it's right, but it's not very specific. So to me, that's where data comes in. That's where we'll see multiple agents working with each other, taking different roles, right? One agent gathers information maybe about your product documentation. The next one contextualizes it in the context of the customer service request that they're getting. And the third one, almost like a supervisor, reviews everything after the fact. If this message is actually safe to be sent to a customer, does it adhere to our quality standards? Does it have the right tone? Does it have examples? Do the links actually lead to verifiable websites on our properties, for example? And so we need to think about this as well, right? This is not something that just happens when people use AI, but we'll see this more and more as AI and as agents are working with our data too. Now, obviously, there's no shortage of data in any business, right? We've got transactional data, master data, streaming data, sensor data, what have you. And I would say we solved that problem of getting data, but now the other part starts. It's the sense making, right? What data do we actually get? Which parts are actually usable and useful for what we want to achieve? Do we have it, right? Can we get it? How long does it take to get it? And from my experience, having worked with several Fortune 500s over the years, it takes a long time, especially in large organizations, getting the data, getting access to it. And then when you do get it, it looks something like this. Right? It's not clean, it's not fresh, it's not current, it's not exactly what you need. So on AI projects, a lot of times, the first step is actually to clean the data to make sure it is usable. What are you seeing there? Am I the only one seeing this?
No, absolutely. I think this is one of the biggest challenges we have when making or transitioning in an AI age, because we have so much data, and a lot of it is not clean. I've worked with many customers that have documents that have been around, financial documents that have been around for many years. They're outdated. They have a lot of interim data in their databases. We're trying to work with them in data archiving projects, taking that data out of the systems. But also, when we look at that, there is master data that hasn't been cleaned up for years. There's duplicates. not only duplicates, triplicates, quadruplets of data in the same company many times in there. And SAP has talked about that for a long time, but many companies have never gotten to it. And now I think it becomes an imperative to really clean up your data, because you want good results and not just random.
I think that's both a challenge and an opportunity at the same time, right? Because if you've been in business for a while, you do have data. You do have lots of data, right? The longer you've been in business, the more historic data you traditionally have. And there's so much information, so much knowledge in there as well. I think of your supply chain processes, think of demand forecasting, having history over several years or maybe a decade or two. That's valuable information in your business, in your industry. But at the same time, if it's not necessarily relevant or if it's outdated, then it can easily become a burden. Does the agent now pull from the most recent data, or does it pull some things that are, 5 or 10 years old that are no longer relevant? So I think there's a delicate balance that you need to strike.
Exactly.
And by the way, while it has gotten easier now with generative AI, to start with a lot less data than what we had to get before with machine learning and predictive analytics. We've also seen that generative AI, again, creates just mediocre, bland results unless we enrich it with specific business data. So that's where that connect comes in again. That's why we need it. That's why we still need to preserve it and just saying, hey, look, I start greenfield or brownfield and I migrate just a little, might not be sufficient here as well. So anyways, data, lots of data, hardly ever in the format, in the shape that you need it. Now, look at the industry and look at the news. Right? There's so much hype and so much buzz. There's rarely a week that goes by without any AI lab announcing some major breakthrough. 1 week, OpenAI leads. 2 days later, Anthropic, another lab, catches up. A couple of days later, Google comes out with something. Personally, I love making music, so this theme resonates with me. I'm a drummer. Feels like there are all these bells and whistles and little cymbals and drums and accents and everything that you can do with these models now. But when you look at what's happening in business and how businesses are AI ready, that something that my 6-year-old could play is probably where they are at. So technology moves incredibly fast these days, exponentially, while businesses are barely adopting it in a linear way, some even remaining flat. So I think that's where we need to spend a lot more time with our leaders as well, to educate them and first of all, see what is possible, what are vendors offering, how are things moving in the market, what's relevant in our industry, and then how can we elevate our own AI readiness within our company. You've seen a lot of CEOs this year say, we want to become an AI first company, ... or else, right? Or else means we'll get rid of the people that are not joining us on this journey. Personally, I have a big issue with that sort of leadership. It's not my leadership style. And I don't even want to know what it feels like in these organizations. You have to do this or else. So we need to think about how can we actually bring people along on this journey, because it is a longer term change and a change process when work changes, when all of a sudden AI can take over parts of it, when we need to think, should I really still be doing this myself, or can I outsource this or delegate this to an AI, and how helpful will that be? So we need to actually look at AI readiness. And when we look at this from a project point of view, right, a lot of times we think about this as linear projects. How do we implement Joule? How do we implement any sort of software? Right? It's linear. Start, finish, and in the middle there are some work packages. That's how we've been trained. I used to be in IT for 14 years. That's how we ran projects. If you got a PMP certification, that's what PMI teaches you. Start, finish, linear in between. Now, guess what? AI projects are not linear. They're messy. They're almost like research projects where you start with a hypothesis, where you explore, you go test it, you get data, you see what works, what doesn't, you change things. And it's a lot more cyclical in nature. We have a hypothesis, we test it. Well, maybe there are some changes we need to make. Okay, next cycle, next iteration, next iteration, next iteration. So it's not as clear as a linear project might be. And you also might need to go back a step or two and start over or adjust your assumptions. So to me, that's one of the big things, one of the key aspects that we also need to share with our leaders and that they need to convey too, right? We're also
I
used to having
almost
linear projects. Yeah.
I almost think that AI projects are never ending. They start and you have a starting point. You work with it. You need to refine it as the tools become more powerful. We learn how we can better support it with data and how we can better use it in our businesses.
Mhm.
So I think compared to past IT projects where we do have a tool that has a certain functionality, everything very defined, we are in a much more fluctuating situation here with
Yeah.
AI projects.
One of my favorite comparisons is from the automotive industry. Right? Think of Honda, for example, and the Civic, their model. Right? It's been around since what, the 70s or something. I lost track what model generation they're on, but it's a product, right? It continuously evolves. There's new technology, there are new features, there are anti-lock brakes, there's rear view cameras, there's all sorts of bells and whistles that they've added over the years and the decades. In a similar way, your AI projects are actually products, right? There's a roadmap. It's never really done. You're not throwing it over the fence and cleaning your hands like, okay, I'm done here. No, what's the next things that we can improve? We need to look at data again. We need to refine it and make sure that we don't create something that's called data drift, where our model is working based on historic data and some assumptions, but in fact, new data looks completely different, right? Different seasonality, the different purchasing behaviors and whatnot. So it's a product, and we need to evolve that over time. So in my work with executives in IT leadership teams, what I see is usually three things to get from this idea of we need to do AI and we need to do something to actually doing it well. And the first step really starts with assessing where's the company at? You know, what are they currently doing? Do you already have some AI in-house and maybe you don't know it? Maybe you have access to it and you just haven't activated it in your subscription, or you could get access to it, right? Looking at what is your vendor portfolio, which products are you already working with? Can we either activate a feature, or do we need an additional license or a subscription or the next higher tier of the subscription? Typically is a lot easier to accomplish than building something from scratch or starting from zero and trying to boil the ocean. Because at the end of the day, everybody wants to see how quickly can we get this into production, how quickly can we get value, and can we quantify this? So my recommendation is and has been for the last couple of years, look at your standard vendors that you have in your portfolio, see what they offer, and then if there's a gap, see what other vendors might be able to complement that. And from there, build out your strategy, build out your roadmap, look what are the strategic opportunities we should be pursuing, how do they align with our business strategy, how can we measure it in absolute terms, not just happier employees and fewer clicks. They're nice, everybody wants happier employees and everybody wants fewer clicks, but what are the hard dollars, what are the hard savings that we can achieve, or how can we increase our top line, for example, and then roll it out. And also, like I said, bring your people on board along this journey. So how do you use these tools? How to use them well so you don't create work slop, and we have this right balance between AI and people. So what I found through by now close to 100 interviews with AI leaders across the world and across different industries is actually 9 different dimensions that they get right if they see their AI programs succeed. From understanding what is happening in the market, right? We already talked about this, lots of noise, lots of information, but what's actually relevant for me in my business function, to aligning AI with strategy. Where are we going in the next 3 years, 5 years? How can technology like AI support us getting there in strategic areas? Who actually leads AI in our business? Is it democratized and everybody does a little bit of something, or is that with a IT function or a data leader or an AI leader maybe even? adopting the product mindset that we've talked about. You're never really done. So thinking about roadmap and evolution is key. Culture and collaboration. How do we actually learn from each other? How do we spot opportunities in the business? How do I in IT learn about where finance has a need that I can help with what I know about the technology, and vice versa, right? Ethics, privacy, security, and so on. They're all key as we think about this. By the way, security is becoming even more important these days. When you delegate authority, when you delegate autonomy to an agent that is now working on your behalf with your credentials in your environment, but maybe from an IT security point of view, you don't necessarily have that visibility and you don't necessarily know what agents are acting in your business, right? Because they're unlike your human users. So a lot of times when leaders reach out to me and say, hey, can you help us figure out what we do with AI? We need to do AI. I ask them to really challenge the assumption, because not every problem is an AI problem. Not every business problem is an AI problem. In many cases, right, you might see that maybe rules are a better way to do this. If this happens, then do that. We know it's deterministic. It happens in the same way every time, giving the same input. Right? Maybe other kinds of automation, robotic process automation, are a perfect fit. Go to this vendor invoice portal, log in, download the invoice, save them in a temporary folder, upload them to ERP, and move on. Or indeed, generative AI or agentic AI, but being really, really certain that the technology is capable of doing what you need it to do, and that it's not overkill or over-engineered. This is the big point here, because yes, we can do AI and we can do many things with AI, but a lot of times it's a lot more powerful, it's a lot more expensive, it's a lot more complex than what we actually need. So understanding what do we actually need and what do we want to accomplish is the important part here. So where are things going? And again, maybe you're seeing some of this in your business already, especially with agentic AI. AI that's able to take a goal and work based on that, break the goal down into smaller tasks, almost like a mini project, work on the tasks individually, and then come back with a recommendation or with a solution for you. And you can accept it, or maybe if you're really, really confident, the agent can also take action on your behalf and just inform you after the fact. The way I see this playing out at the moment is from the very far left, where it's function based. Right? Take one task, for example, a product expert, as an agent. Look for product information that your customer is asking for and provide the information to the customer. Maybe you have a customer service rep in between, and the agent helps them get the information more quickly, so they don't need to type in or search and type everything themselves. Now, then the next step is one part over here, really, where it's more departmental or team oriented. Right? We have a team of customer service AI agents, and they all have their specialization. One gets the product data, one gets the maintenance information, and together they can serve up information to the customer. And you're already starting to see this move even further to the right between departments. SAP just recently at SAP Connect made some announcements around Joule and Joule agents, SAP's Copilot, where agents across different departments can work together. Finance, procurement, sales, and so on. So almost like real people in a real business working on very limited and well-defined tasks. And just this evolution from departmental to interdepartmental, that's happened in the last, let's say, 3 to 6 months. 9 months ago, we didn't even really talk about agents. There was a very, very nascent thing and something to explore, and maybe we'll get there as an industry. So things are moving incredibly fast, right? Now we're talking about agents taking functions between different departments and collaborating. And soon enough, we'll see agents collaborating with each other across company boundaries. You might have a sales agent and a procurement agent, 2 different companies, and they're doing business with each other, asking for information, providing sales quotes, giving feedback, accepting terms, and so on, if they're within boundaries. So things are moving really, really fast. And in order to do any of this really, really well, again, we need data. data that we have in our business systems. So to wrap it up and get to a more conversational part of our webinar, there are 3 big recommendations that I have for you. If you're considering to look into AI, to explore it, to potentially roll it out, 3 things. First of all, focus on what are the big trends. What are our vendors doing? What's on the roadmap? Where are things moving directionally? What is really, really relevant in our business and in our business function? You don't need to know every little bit of detail, every minutia, every little news item that's in the news cycle for a day or 2 or 3. Things are moving so fast. But what are the big things that are important that you need to be aware of? Secondly, focus on people. Right? Businesses depend on people. They're built by people. We have people working in the business with each other. And we are seeing some of the most transformative change that many of us have experienced in our careers so far. So I believe we have a duty and a responsibility to take them along on the journey and show and explore with them how can we use technology in the best way possible such that it supports us as professionals and our business. And then lastly, yes, everything depends on data, right? Doesn't go away. Quite the opposite. It only becomes more important, more relevant. And so getting your data right, having clean, fresh, accurate, current data is more and more important as you delegate authority and autonomy and automation to agents to help serve your business and serve your customers. So if you'd love to connect with me, you'll find me on LinkedIn. I post every day about how you bring AI into your business. I have a podcast called What's the Buzz, a newsletter as well where I share information. And I'm just curious, what are you seeing in your industries? What's top of mind for you? Let's open it up for questions. And again, like I said, connect with me. Happy to help you after this webinar as well. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Andreas. That was a great presentation. It's amazing how you have been accompanying this journey of AI within SAP and now on your own, looking at different elements of it, helping customers to make the best out of it. I believe what you outlined just in your last slide fits right into what we do at TJC with our customers. We focus on preserving the data, specifically data that is left behind when people go to S4HANA and leave the majority of their data, the biggest, one of the biggest values they have in the companies behind, and do not take it along. Basically, a most common approach that I hear most often is, well, we just freeze our system, but that's counterproductive. You don't want to freeze it. Freezing is static. You can't use anything that's frozen. You have to unthaw it first, and it takes a long time. So what we propose at TJC, that there's a better approach for dealing with legacy data. And let me show you a few slides and some ideas, and then we go right into the questions. So with that, I will share my screen and make myself presenter. And just take a moment. And then I share my screen. And everybody should see my screen now. I want to share a few ideas about ELSA. ELSA is our enterprise legacy system application, and ELSA is an SAP native application built and certified for the SAP Business Technology Platform. Its purpose is to manage legacy data, documents, reports, and make them re-accessible through ELSA or via SAP S4HANA's custom Fiori applications. We think about all different aspects of data. We have the capability to embed audit trails. We have the capability to deal with privacy requirements like CCPA, Lloyd 25, GDPR. We have authorizations management and several masking features, while we are able to visualize all the data that has been decommissioned. The process is actually fairly easy. We start with extracting 100% of the data from the legacy application. We put it into a cloud file share typically, and from there we have a selective approach, leading just the data that's needed in an SQL database for easy access. So from there, from that SQL database, you have an application, our ELSA client, that runs in the SAP BTP to visualize the data and make sure you can still manage any audits you have going on. You give your users access, you give your customer support people access to past data, whether that is purchasing information, product information, financial information. So the data is alive. It can be used in many different ways throughout the organization. We also integrate into SAP's business AI concepts. We have multiple entry points here. There can be connectors that can be built using DataSphere, where we extract very specific, very detailed data through specific connectors. But we can also integrate using SAP Databricks, just providing generic access to the database we have, but also with the capability to use Parquet as a standardized extraction API and methodology to provide data that is not just raw data, but that is filtered based on user rights, because we do recognize that the SAP system has a lot of information, and some information needs to be guarded or preserved, even if it's in a legacy data environment. If anybody in the audience is interested in learning more, we have some material that's attached to this webcast, and also feel free to contact us at any point in time about that. And with that, we move on to the questions. And we have Kristen Gerling with us today, who is helping us moderate the questions. Hi, Kristen.
Hi.
Thanks for being with us.
Thank you, Andreas, and thank you, Jochen, for the insightful presentations. We'll jump right into the questions. I believe the first one will be for you, Andreas. What can organizations do right now to explore AI agents?
That's a great question. It depends on where you are in the organization. If you're trying to test this out for yourself, like we said earlier, dipping your toes in the water with some of the commercially available tools like Gemini, like Perplexity, Copilot, ChatGPT, that's usually a pretty good start, just to explore how do these tools actually work, how do these agents work, how do I need to define a goal, right? Some of the things come back to prompt engineering and giving it concise information, complete information, contextual information. And then on a business side, because we're talking about this in the SAP context, right? Maybe reach out to your SAP account rep or to your service provider of choice that you work with on SAP tools, and learn more about what is SAP offering right now. What does the roadmap look like? Can we spin this up in a test instance? And just learn about it. To me, it's like learning to ride a bike. Right? You can look at all the pictures of bikes throughout history. You can study mechanics. You can study the science of motion and pedaling and whatnot. But unless and until you've really sat on a bike and you started pedaling and you've tried to find your balance and maybe fallen off once or twice, you're not really getting good at riding a bike. Same thing here as well. You learn it through practice and through continuous practice. So finding opportunities to do that and learn from others, that's the best way, in my opinion.
Okay, thank you, Andreas. The next question is for Jochen. Is the ELSA platform just for decommissioning SAP systems, or can you decommission other systems as well?
The ELSA platform was built for decommissioning SAP systems, and we put a lot of SAP know-how and knowledge into creating the platform, especially our experience of many years, approaching 20 years, on data archiving with SAP. So all that knowledge has been put into this platform to develop a really powerful tool that is able to pull data out of SAP and make it available in a way that makes sense to SAP customers. But so yes, there's a lot of SAP focus here. The tool set, though, is also capable to manage data that is not originating from an SAP system. With the right extraction tools and the right knowledge to visualize the data that comes from a non-SAP system, the technology can be used to do just that and also present that data from non-SAP systems. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And one more question for Andreas. Does one really need historic data to get good results with AI?
Oh, that's a good one. So, you know, things have been evolving over the last couple of years. When I was in product management for S4HANA 2020, 21, we're working with a number of large clients because access to data was so important for building good models, for building good machine learning models, building good predictive models, where there was forecasting, cash liquidity, cash collection, things like that. And now with generative AI, these large language models already have a lot of information embedded because they've been trained on vast amounts of data from the internet, all different kinds of domains and so on. But just like when you use tools like ChatGPT or Gemini or Copilot and you just ask it a question, like, can you create a marketing plan or can you create a project plan for an IT project? Yeah, it'll spit out something, but it's missing a lot of detail. And these details come from your specific business data. Right? Vendors like Microsoft, OpenAI, and so on, they don't have access to that specific data that is in your business system, right? Thankfully, they don't. That's what makes your business, that's what makes your data unique. So by connecting that data with a large language model, you will be able to get much better results, much more tailored results to your business, to your industry, to your business function than just using things off the shelf. So that's where, yes, you still need historic data. You still need high quality data to get high quality results.
Okay, thank you. Jochen, how does Elsa work with Joule?
How does Elsa work with Joule? I think Joule has the capability to create natural language, to provide a natural language interface for their users. And through the integration we have with various artificial intelligence interfaces within SAP, Joule can also then access data that is in our legacy database. So the Joule becomes the front end basically, and our data repositories become the back end for the machine learning functionality.
Great, thank you. That has been all the questions that I have seen come in. I want to thank you both very, very much for the presentation, and I'll hand it back over to you, Jochen, for saying goodbye to our audience. Thanks.
And with that, thanks very much, everybody. I hope you enjoyed the presentation. The presentation will be available for review on our YouTube channel, and we will also. I also wanted to alert you to our next session. The title of the next session is "Rise with SAP Doesn't Cover Your Whole Estate. How will you cover and support this gap?" with David Sands from Oxia, November 11th, 2025. So coming up soon. Please sign up for the session and for any other sessions in our series that interests you. I hope to see you again next time. Thank you very much, everybody, and goodbye.
Bye.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.